If you're considering a Toronto loft for sale, then this is the video for you. If you're interested in hearing the top 5 things that turn our clients off from buying a Toronto loft, then keep on watching. Before we get started, I'm Stephanie Nause with the Homplicity Realty Group here at Keller Williams. I've been selling real estate for 15 years. I've always had a specialty for Toronto lofts, and I am actually passionate about helping our clients build and develop wealth through real estate, whether they're buying a loft or not. If you're interested in information on buying a home, selling a home, or investing in Toronto real estate, I hope you'll consider subscribing to our channel. If you like this content, go ahead and give it a like. And if you live in a loft, if you've considered a loft, if you decided not to buy a loft, go ahead and comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the topic as well. Okay, so let's get into it. Toronto lofts, everyone comes to our website asking for them, but how come not everyone buys one? We'll go through the top 5 things that our clients kind of use as decision makers as they go through the process, which will lead them to either purchase a loft or end up in a condo or a house or some other different type of property. The first thing is lofts are crazy expensive. They are significantly more expensive than some of the more traditional condo spaces. If you've ever taken a look and you're interested in some of those things like the exposed brick and the post and beam ceilings, high ceilings, factory windows, exposed concrete, there's some really cool factors that make lofts really attractive. So whenever someone comes to me and says they want to buy a loft, it's what I consider to be more of a lifestyle buy. You are going to pay a premium to have these features. There's just less loft buildings overall, and it's just a supply and demand situation. It's one of those things that they do tend to hold their value over time because people do like them. So if the market softens up, which we're seeing right now, you will find that people are still interested in purchasing these types of properties, but it's certainly more expensive. And for that reason, it's not going to be for everyone. When we take a look at a more traditional condo space and people see what they can get for their money, either a bigger size or a better location, oftentimes they will opt to move into a more traditional condo space. Not to say we don't sell Toronto lofts, because we do. It's just not going to be something that's going to fit into everyone's budget and have the max value. That's something that's definitely going to be a factor. I would say the next thing is typically location. You're not going to find, well, I mean, that's not always true because the merchandise lofts are right downtown, but you'll certainly find that for someone that wants to live right in the downtown core, the locations for a lot of these converted lofts or warehouse type lofts are going to be on the outskirts of the city. If you're someone that wants to roll out of bed, be able to take 5 steps from your front door and access the subway or your gym or restaurants or any of those types of things, some of these more authentic or hard lofts, they're just not going to be in those locations. So you might have to be comfortable moving out to the West End or the East End or into some more industrial type locations. And that's because we are looking at buildings that are converted warehouses or factories, and they just weren't typically built and constructed in those more central urban locations. As we do find that the city moves farther and farther out of the core, we are seeing that there's amenities like groceries and gyms, restaurants, all that kind of stuff that's moving outside the city as well. But for someone that wants to be a real like downtown urban city dweller, you're just going to find that the location might not be an ideal fit for you. Or you have to wait for a unit to come up in that specific location that you're looking for because maybe there's only a handful of buildings. Maybe you have to be a little bit more patient as well, and not everyone, like myself, is a patient person and wants to wait. So it depends what your timeline is. And I would say the next thing would be liability. Whenever we are looking at more of a traditional condo space, let's say you have 200 or 400 in some of these larger towers or complexes of multiple buildings, if there happens to be any major repairs or deficiencies or things that have to get done in the condominium complex, the apartment complex, there's a whole lot more unit owners that the cost is going to be divided amongst. One of the amazing things about the lofts is that boutique kind of exclusive environment that's created, but that also means there's less unit owners. So when there is a major shift that happens in the building, like there's a major repair or something that comes up and has to be addressed, there's going to be less people for the cost to be spread across. So you might find that you'll see a really big increase in your maintenance fee, or something called a special assessment, which is where they take the total cost and divide it amongst all the unit owners. So you can see how having less unit owners in the building would result in potentially getting a bigger bill. And at the same time, the maintenance fees are typically a little bit more because, again, you still have all the common elements like heating, cleaning, if there's a concierge, those types of things that cost that have to be paid for. So if there's less people, it just means that you're going to be paying more per unit. So that makes it a little bit more expensive as well. And then the other thing is that, it's not a brand new building. So when the developers are building these condos, they're starting from scratch. Everything's built to code. My house is 111 years old, so there's going to certainly be more repairs and maintenance that I'm going to have to complete on my property versus a brand new build, right? It's the same with these lofts. You are going to expect that there's going to be more costs associated and potentially more maintenance costs that you're going to have to pay into when you are living in one of these loft buildings, especially the converted ones. When we're talking about some of the soft lofts or newer buildings, that's going to be less of a concern, but certainly for those lofty kind of conversions in those old warehouses or the church conversions, it's something that you should expect and be prepared for. The other thing, number 4, is that they're not necessarily the most functional. I love a sleeping loft and an 18-foot ceiling and having a bedroom that overlooks my living room. As a single person, no problem. But if you're someone that has a significant other that's potentially on a different sleeping schedule than you, like I am not someone that likes to get up really early on the weekend. So if someone's making coffee or playing music or up really late watching TV, that's something that noise is going to waft up and potentially be a challenge. If you're looking to have a nursery or kids or house guests, sometimes there will be 2 bedrooms that are both open looking onto each other. So there's a little bit less privacy, and sometimes that just doesn't work. And having some of those very open, large spaces, it's not the best work from home situation. You love your partner, but sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of separation from them. And it just can sometimes not be the most functional situation, especially when you have those 2 levels or the open sleeping lofts. Just something to be mindful of. And that's one of the reasons that a lot of our clients, especially those that have small kids or pets or just completely different work schedules, will decide that those 2-level lofts are just not going to work for them. So something to be mindful of. And that's one of those things that until you see it and you see what the layout's like, it's hard to make a decision on whether or not it will work for you. And I would say probably the number 5 thing is the lack of amenities. When people are living in these vertical neighborhoods, which is essentially what an apartment or condo complex or loft complex is, you are trading off having a smaller space for having the convenience for living downtown, having less commute time, and having potentially that lifestyle, right? Like you don't have a really large space, so having a theater room or an outdoor common elements area that you can go and barbecue, not having those things, which you don't typically in lofts because it's a converted building and there's not even that many units in it, so the developers wanted to convert them and capitalize on the space. Sometimes you don't have a concierge because there aren't that many unit owners sharing in the total costs. The 2 main things that really drive the cost of maintenance fees up are going to be concierge and having a swimming pool. You're most likely not going to have a pool, and oftentimes you don't have a concierge. So if you're thinking about what that would be like in terms of receiving packages, or if guests come and you're going to have to come down and let them in, potentially not having visitor parking spaces, or if you don't have a gym that's usable in your building, then you have an outside cost for a gym membership. I know that the gyms in some of these newer condos are really nice. They're state of the art. They are probably nicer than a lot of the actual gyms that you would have with a membership. So potentially not having that and having the extra cost. And the other thing is oftentimes the lofts don't have balconies, especially the converted ones. So if you're not going to have any outdoor space, then it is nice to be able to have a green space that's shared, like a shared amenity or party room or something that you can get some outdoor and have a barbecue or etc. The fact that you might not have access to some of those amenities and things that you would have in a condo, you're paying more, it's not quite as functional. There's a little bit more risk in buying into one of these buildings. The location isn't maybe as functional and you're going to pay more on top of all of that. It's one of those things when people take a look at the big picture and they're like, hey, maybe a more traditional or basic condo is a better fit for me. Tell me what you think. Those are the top 5 things that I would say that when people come to me and say, hey, I want to buy a loft, and then they end up buying a condo or a townhouse or a different property type, those are the discussions that we have, and that's sort of their decision-making process along the way. Having said that, I still do sell tons of lofts. I love lofts. One day I hope to be in one myself. So if you have a Toronto loft that you're interested in selling and you would like to know what the value of it is, or if you just want to see some of the beautiful lofts for sale, go ahead and check the description down below and we'll link to some of the active listings. If you like this kind of content, you just like seeing really beautiful real estate listings, if you want to follow us on @Homeplicity Realty on Instagram or on Facebook, we post all of our new listings there and other real estate information. Go ahead, like, subscribe, and share this video, and we hope to see you on the socials. Until next time, bye for now.